Welcome back to the Nerdrotic channel. My name is Gary Beekler. I am live in San Francisco, California, and I come to you from nerdrotic.com. And tonight we're covering the amazing Castle Rock, Season 1, Episode 9, Henry Deaver. Hello, everybody. If you're new to the channel, what I do is I'll do a brief as I can recap, and I'll get to you in the chat because that's really the most important part. This is a fully interactive review and recap. This was a great episode. This show has really delivered. I'm very happy. I was like, whoa. So let's start breaking it down. And hello, everybody in the chat. Thanks for staying up late with me. If you're watching this live, if you're watching this as a video, thank you. I appreciate it. Please like, share, and subscribe. Tell your friends. Oh, I forgot to shout this one out on Twitter. That's all right. I'll shout it out later. So, yes, it starts out with the brief recap. They every time they do the recap of the episode before it starts, kind of gives you hints to what's to come, and they really talked about the schisma and how it's all possibilities, all pasts and presents, other heres, other nows, and it's the sound of that reconciling. So it was pretty clear. I think they've been making it pretty clear what's been going on. Dennis and I at the beginning, and I've kind of, we're dealing with alternate realities, but we're also dealing with an unreliable narrator. Now, there still is some mystery box stuff put in, but I think the payoffs have been really good on this one. I think it's J.J. Abrams in name only as far as executive producer. Sam Shaw and Dustin Thomas have done a great job on the show. And they did, I think, Masters of Sex and Lie to Me. Masters of Sex was a pretty good show. I did watch that one. So these are pretty solid writers here. So we get to see Henry Deaver's dad, giving us basically giving a narration, and we're seeing some more tragedy of the town of Castle Rock. We see a helicopter crash. We see a school bus get hit by a train, and Henry's dad is basically, saying that, is it the place or is it us? And he talked about all the people who have been guilty of, murder or doing anything bad in Castle Rock, and their excuses, it's this place, it's not me. And then he says, and they're right. And we hear him talking about the voice of God and how he's in a bad patch and he wasn't really listening hard enough. And then one time he finally got an answer, which sounds very familiar, exactly what Warden Lacey was talking about. And then we see Henry's dad building a cage, which was pretty ominous. So a little more talk about resurrection, and Henry's dad tells the story of how his mom tried to kill him in the crib, but he came back to life. She used a coat hanger on him, and as she was walking away, the baby starts crying again. So yeah, it was kind of gnarly. So then we see him building the cage, and this leads up to the credits. Again, that was just like Reverend Lacey. So we know this is going to be a different episode. So then we cut in and we see the kid, or Henry Deaver, running from what it looks like the cops. And then you kind of focus in and you see the police car pass him, and you see he's jogging. He checks his watch. He's in a city. He's in some big city, probably Boston or something like that. Yes, Karen Foster. I love Castle Rock as well. I do. I was responding some in the chat. I say a big heart right there. I like that. So we see all of a sudden, I started figuring out what's going on is we're going to see either an alternate reality with the kid. And maybe, we jump some time. I wasn't really sure at this point. We see him going to work, eating a donut, and he works in the field of Alzheimer's. And he gives a little speech at work, and he shows this little device. He pulls out a poor little cat named Puck, who has what's the feline cognitive dysfunction or something like that. It's called FCD. Sorry, it's like Alzheimer's for cats. Okay. I have to write this in shorthand, so please give me a break here. And he brings out his hip gimbal, and it's a little device that he puts into the cat, and all of a sudden the cat can remember where his food is. Yeah, he remembers where the sexy tabby is next door, and it's an implant. It's like just a little implant they put in the cat, which I think will come around later. And yeah, so he's, they also see him talking to his girlfriend, and they're talking about a date and how she's possibly pregnant. And as all this is happening, I'm like, oh, we're being so set up at this point. And then he gets a call from Sheriff Pangborn. And Pangborn calls Henry and he says, how's mom? And he's all, Ruth is fine, but it's your dad. So we see Henry going to Castle Rock, and he gets to Castle Rock, and it's a completely different looking Castle Rock. It's very vibrant. It looks like a fun town to hang out in. There's a little festival going on. He gets out of the car and he approaches his old house, which looks the exact same, very dilapidated as it does in our alternate reality with the other Henry Deaver. And something has happened to his dad at this point. So we see him, get into the house. He finds a key, gets into the house, and we see just it looks like the house of a crazy person. There's magazines everywhere. There's tapes. It's just a complete mess. He starts, looking across. Henry goes upstairs. The kid is now Henry Deaver. We know this now. He goes upstairs, looks across the street, and he sees Molly's car. He walks over there, and he doesn't see Molly. He sees her sister, and she tells him, she asks him, hey, are you a speculator? Are you looking at at that house? Yeah, a couple came over from Portland earlier. Just want to let you know that the guy didn't shoot himself inside the house. I guess he went out the lake and blew his head off. She has no idea that she's talking to his son at this point. And then Molly comes out, and it's Bridget. Her sister's name is Bridget. And Molly comes out, and he's all Molly, and she's all Henry Deaver. So yeah, so we know we're firmly into this timeline. This isn't some trickery, or maybe it is, but it's going to go through the entire episode. And yeah, so we hear, Molly and Henry talk. They go into the bar, and we find out that Molly is on the city council, and she's pretty much the mayor at this point. She has the most power. They talk about how Ruth did the right thing by getting Henry out of town. So you see in this reality, all the good stuff that all the stuff Ruth was regretting, she did in this reality. And Henry actually had a pretty normal life. He went to, he got away from his dad, and she left him. And then she ended up with Pangborn earlier, but her Alzheimer's was still in effect. It happened to her early. And that's why he got in the field of Alzheimer's, was because of her. So he walks Molly home, and he just asks her, he's all, my dad was always nuts, but why did he pick now to blow his brains out? And she has no idea why, and nobody does, and we still don't. And that's one of the few questions they did leave us for next episode. So after he left the church to talk to after she had mentioned that after her dad or Henry's dad had left the church, he really didn't talk to anybody. So she just kind of avoided him because he was just a crazy person. And she knew, even the Molly in this timeline knew what, his Henry's dad did to him, and it was pretty abusive. And he did the same things to this Henry as he did to the other one. He took him out in the woods, tried to tell him the sounds, or tried to make him listen to the sounds, the voice of God. So he leaves Molly, and he goes back to the house. He calls his girlfriend, and they chit chat about the pregnancy again. So again, we're getting set up, and this is a properly creepy scene. He puts a knife in his pocket while he's talking to his girlfriend, and the lights go out. So he's got to go flip the breaker. So he goes downstairs into the creepy basement, and he's looking around. There's some pretty good camera shots, like first person shots, look like kind of like a video game. And as he flips the breaker, he turns around and gets freaked out and sees young Henry Deaver in a cage downstairs in his dad's house. So the next shot, we see the police show up, and Dennis is back. Poor Dennis, who got killed early on in the episode 2. Who he likes so much, seems to be doing much better, doesn't have the weight of his world on his shoulders. He's not a prison guard, he's a cop. And he's just asking, he basically asks Henry, he goes, did your dad ever touch you? And Henry's like, my dad was fucked up, but not like that. And Dennis asks, well, fucked up how? He's all, he thought God was talking to him in the woods. That's pretty fucked up. So they take the kid away, and Henry goes through his dad's house some more, and he finds all of these tapes. And what you think are sermons. It's just basically a daily diary of going through all the horrors of the town of Castle Rock, and we only get to hear little pieces of them. We get a lot of repeated stuff from the narration from the beginning of the episode, but we get some new stuff also. We hear about a cursed. Maybe this all started in Castle Rock when the settlers came into French settlers came in 200 years ago, and it ended up a young girl having to eat her family to survive. That was interesting, and that kind of pops up later. But then we get some really, really interesting tapes. He talks about, we hear Henry's father talking again about going through the bad patch. And then we hear about something approaching the back of his house from the woods. And Henry's dad had a baseball bat, and whatever approached the house was really scared because it was between this full grown man and the woods. And we think it's an animal. And then we find out what it was. It was when young Henry, the other Henry, the Black Henry, came to that house, and he said, "Dad, I actually heard it. I heard the sound, and I came in the town, but the town was different. I showed up, and there was no snow, and nobody at Castle Rock knew me." And the dad tests him, and he finds out through lots of interrogation, everything about Ruth, how he likes his eggs, and then the dad had been saying in his tapes, he's saying, "I've been praying for this for so long to have my Henry back in this way." And then I realized God doesn't take requests, like he mentioned in the beginning of the episode. And the only person who would do this is the devil. And there was probably one or two or three strings attached. So that's why he locked him up, because he thought it was a trick of the devil. So he locked young Henry up. But the weird part was, for years. So he didn't age as well. So the kid doesn't age in the timeline we were in before. And in this current one, he had been down there for 20 some odd years, maybe 17, 20 odd years, and he did not age. And they mentioned that. And what's freaking out Skarsgård Henry, this version, is that he got everything right. The other Henry got everything right, knows everything about his mom, knows how dad likes his eggs, and even knew about how mom told him to lie about hearing the sound in the woods just to get dad off his back. So he tells this to Molly, and Molly says, Molly starts getting convinced. So she's all, "Listen, I can find out where they took him." So they go to the hospital, and of course there's where they took young Henry, and of course there was a fire. There's 7 dead, 10 missing, just like in Juniper Hills. Um, and the police think that young Henry did it, so they have to go to the police station. They see Dennis again, happy Dennis, and they get to talk to young Henry. This is a properly creepy scene, and they ask him his name, and he says, "My name is Henry Deaver." They ask him how old he is, and he can't answer, and he starts being like weirded out by the light. So Molly gives him a pair of sunglasses, and then he starts hearing the sound again, and he just says, "I've got to get out to the woods. I don't have much time. There's a sound." And he starts grabbing his ears. He puts his hand on the table. Molly touches his hand, and she gets the full life story of the other Henry Deaver right there, and she becomes a believer. So the police take Henry out because time's up for the interrogation. And since Molly uses all of her juice, being the pretty much defunct mayor of the town, to get him released into Henry released into her custody, and old Henry and young Henry and Molly take off to her place, or so we think. As Molly's driving, she's getting visions of the other reality, and we see young Henry kind of looking out in the woods, and he's hearing more and more of the sound, and they end up on this where the train tracks are, and there's a train coming. So the stops the car. By the way, they had Dennis behind them. Dennis was going to be on them at all time. He was going to search the house and basically, watch them for 24 hours or however long they have Henry. So Molly starts telling older Henry that we've got to help him. We've got to help him. And she times it right and takes off right before the train crosses the tracks. So she loses Dennis and they start running out into the woods. And as they go out into the woods, we start hearing the sound louder and louder. And before she crossed the train, we saw young Henry looking out in the woods, and we saw something that some light kind of glowing behind some trees. So when they ran out to the woods, Henry kind of gets ahead of them, and we see Henry's perspective. All of a sudden, it's daylight, and he's staring at what it looks like possibly a young French colonial girl with a bloody knife in her hand, kind of looking up and freaking out. And the crows are all flying over, and we see dual suns, and it's a pretty trippy scene. Then Molly goes up to follow Henry. She touches his hand, and she sees it too. And all of a sudden, this looks a lot like the vision we had last episode of Molly dying in the woods. And that's where Henry, the older Henry, had said that last episode, is that the woods, this is the woods where you died. So we see a couple of weird scenes where it looks like it's a prison break in the 20s. We see some cops running after Dennis runs after Molly. He shoots his gun in the air. Molly loses Henry, and it's still daytime. So from old Henry's perspective and Dennis's perspective, they're in the woods and it's night. But with young Henry and Molly, they're getting visions of other people running across, and it's day. So we hear a gunshot, and Molly gets shot, and Molly dies. But before she dies, she tells old Henry to go help young Henry. So he runs after him, and all of a sudden it blinks, and he's in the snow. And he kind of climbs up slow, gets to the top of the cliff, right at the cliff where Reverend Lacey drove his car off in the first episode. And we see young Henry reuniting with Sheriff Pangborn. And at the end of the episode, we see that this has been a story that the kid has been telling Molly in the alternate timeline, basically where we ended last episode 8. So, hey, Random, what's up? And that's how it ended. So we got a ton of answers. We're dealing with alternate realities. They're converging in on each other. This happens at Castle Rock. So this might be the cause of a lot of the problems there, but we still have questions. I have questions like, who was the voice that talked to Henry's dad and Warden Lacey? They said they heard a specific voice that gave them instructions to build a cage. Now, I don't know if they told that to Henry's dad, but definitely got the gist of that from Lacey. So maybe they were just misinterpreting. In some of the tapes they were that they were playing, Henry's dad was talking about a cacophony of voices, like voices over voices over voices, and that's what the sound probably was. And again, it's time and space kind of crashing in on each other. So Castle Rock got all wibbly wobbly, timey-wimey. It did. And it was cool. At least it wasn't purgatory, right? Because it was really looking that way, especially when he said Molly is dead. So there is dead people on both sides, but we have a reality that's kind of rosy a little bit, and Pangborn's still alive and Dennis is still alive. I don't know where Warden Lacey is even in that reality, or if he's part of it. But there's still other questions. And we find out if the kid's story is true, if he's telling the truth, which we don't know. We don't know that. That's just from his perspective. It could be a lie. It could be the devil. Remember that in the third episode, I believe it was, they made a point to show the Howling Man, the Twilight Zone, the Howling Man. And if you all know, that's like one of the greatest Twilight Zones ever written. And it's about a man in a cage, and pretty much he spends the whole episode trying to talk his way out, and he's like, they've got me in here, I'm an innocent, wonderful man. And finally, I hate to spoil it for you, but it's been 50 years, people, that he lets him out, and he ends up letting the devil out. So so that could be a possibility too. I would love I love it when they mix science fiction with horror and supernatural. I love it when all three of those things are put together. We get a little smorgasbord of nerd right there. I like it a lot. So I was very happy. And there's still some questions, but we got enough answers, right? I don't know. Could I be wrong? Let's go to the chat and find out. How is it? You guys are up late. There's a lot of people up late here. Um, Jody, Monte Crisco, Monte Crisco. Holy shit, what a mind F, right? Mary Ashmead, Mecca Random 42. Please check out her channel. She is great. She was one of the Tribunal, one of the best live streamers out there, and had a great ladies' night on Midnight's Edge After Dark. Go check that out too. That was good. Hound 3000. Quartzwise. Hello. How are you? Sarah S. Rover, USS Rover. Man of Action, Karen Foster. Coral Hunt, how are you? So I'm going to creep up the chat here and get to a point where we're actually poor Mary doesn't have Hulu anymore. Yeah, Hulu's, I don't know, I don't know if Hulu's not something I kind of dip in and out of Hulu. When it has a good show, I'll dip in. But there are other places. There are other places to go. Yes, I get to see it at 9 o'clock because I'm on the West Coast. Whoa, looks like Castle Rock is getting real. Man of Action, it did. It was a slow burn. It took 3 to 4 episodes to really get going, but the last, I'll say 5 episodes have been really great. Really great. The Sissy Spacek one, episode 7's kind of the standout, but these two have been just Twilight Zone nuts, and I love this stuff. Wow, that episode threw all of my theories out the window, Coral Hunt. Kind of did mine too. I started out like thinking the kid was one of the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, but it doesn't really explain why all this bad shit happens around now the young Henry Deaver and the old Henry Deaver. Why so much horror follows them around? Is it because they are out of time? So everywhere they go, they're like, maybe they're just they fuck with the magnosphere, like they're messing with our electromagnetic the electrons in our brain, and they're an anomaly, and being a space-time anomaly just makes you go insane if you get near it. That's a possibility. Kind of a semi Hollywood science fiction answer for stuff. I'm confused as hell, says Kale Beats. So we have multiple, not just 1 or 2. We have probably infinite dimensions, time and reality converging in one place. So there's a wrinkle in space-time, or a straight up hole in space-time. You know what would have been cool if some of these scenes we saw, like the jailbreak and the colonial girl with the bloody knife, is like maybe future seasons. If they would have snuck in that would have been really clever, but who knows if they're going to get a second season. I think they will. A lot of people are loving the show. Alternate dimensions and aliens is now my top theory, says Sarah S. Not saying it's aliens, but it's aliens. Definitely alternate dimensions, several realities coexisting, not sold on aliens. What was with the girl, though? Is she the ghost or the demon in the tapes? Yeah, I think she's definitely the girl he was referring to in the tapes. And maybe Henry's dad had seen some of this stuff. It said something about the first settlement and a curse. It did, Coral. 200 years ago, some French settlers. One of the tapes talked about a sole survivor, or a girl who ate the bodies to stay alive. Yeah, I think that was her. Okay, Mary, you're waiting till midnight. You're going to let me spoil it for you? It's still damn good. It's still good. Yeah, I think they're going to throw us for a loop on this one, folks, though. I think they're going to go supernatural on us. I think we're going to find out that my guess is the kid just told us kind of a big old lie, or some sort of a truth. Maybe he was talking about somebody who actually existed, but then we'll find out like he was the devil or something like that. That'd be kind of cool. I'd like that. Make it a big, long howling man. Although that'd be kind of ripping off Howling Man pretty bad. Finally made the live chat, says Karen Foster. Welcome. We have a very good chat here. We do. Lots of smart people. And everybody welcome Karen. That's great. That's awesome. The show is batshit crazy, on par with American Horror Story. Yes, Man of Action. I think American Horror Story is the only reason this exists. I mean, that has been such a success. And it kind of makes sense. You just talk Stephen King and hey, can we play with every character in your world? And it's kind of limitless what you can do. We are kind of stuck in Castle Rock, but they can really, if they get bold, they can, bring Cujo in for a couple episodes. They can do a season of just one-off episodes. I think that would be cool. They don't have to do one season on one story. Split it in half, do something like that, or tell 3 during a season. I like how Puck was a cat in his reality. Yep. I like that too. I like Puck the cat. Morning here from Wet and Horrible UK, says Lane Bachelor. Well, hello. I'm sorry it's wet and horrible. Nobody wants to be wet and horrible. Now wet, yeah. Yes, Puck the cat. Yes, I like that too. Castle Rock is like an interactive game of Stephen King find the item. You're right. You're absolutely right. Oh my God. Hang on. I'm looking up something here real quick. It didn't come up. Screw you, Google. Never mind. We're going to go on. I think it's Henry Deaver's dad was nuts. I think he was nuts from possibly getting killed in the cradle and coming back to life, but I think there was more than that. I was really getting shades of the Talisman and Twinners with this episode. Talisman for sure. Sarah S. That was definitely a Talisman vibe. Like last episode was definitely The Shining. It was all about The Shining. And and I think they're trying to hit a little bit on on all of Stephen King stuff. Oh, I know. Oh my God, the poor kid, poor Henry Deaver. It's horrible. I mean, if the kid is telling the truth and he's, he left his girlfriend who was pregnant and he's been gone for, how many years? And if he goes back, did he lose all that time? Course-wise. I'm just getting your chat now. Holy crap, I just came here. Thank you for this. I needed someone to talk to about this. That is why we're here. That is why this podcast exists. Because you know what? Sometimes we watch shows alone, or sometimes our partners are not into the shows, and we want to talk about them. And we used to always talk about them the next day in the comic shop I used to own, take a drink. And that's what's the inspiration of this podcast. So yes, this is basically a post-game show. The first tape showed in the quarter, it was week 1,437, which is 27 and a half years. Thank you, Karen Foster. Damn. So yeah, and that's why the Henry Deaver we've been following all season doesn't remember anything. So maybe it's traumatic, or maybe when you go back into your time, the time you were in didn't really happen. Maybe you're frozen in stasis, and maybe that's part of when you get near people, you're such an anomaly, it just makes you go nuts. But why does it always have to be evil? Why can't there be a guy walking around and people just want to give away all their money or just do charity for the rest of their lives, or I don't know, just be nice? Because it would be boring, I know. Felipe Diaz here for the spoilers, and hit that like button. Here for the spoilers, and hit that like button. Yes, don't forget to lick that button, please. Hello again, Hound 33,000. How are you? Oh my God, Henry Deavers. That's right. And Random is lurking. I lurk at your streams too. Lurking right back at you, Random. Lurking and working. Oh my God, they're both Henry. Alternate universes. Yes, we did it. Yeah, so they got nuts. The timeless convergence. The young Henry waited 27 years to meet up with the old Henry, and then the old Henry waited 27 years as well. Says Sarah S. Ooh, good catch right there. And there must be something special about 27 years. If he goes back, maybe it won't be such a long time like the other guy. It was only 11 days. Says Luis Villegas. Hello, Luis. How are you? Welcome. Yeah, I think so. We hope so. But are we expecting a happy ending out of this show? Because I'm not. It's Stephen King. At best, we'll get bittersweet. You know, it's always evil because it's Stephen King. Correct. That is true. And it just wouldn't be as fun. It wouldn't be as fun. Now, this was a fun show. This was a fun episode. Um, Earlier, I watched a show called The Purge, which I recommend none of you watch. I mean, I'm not telling you what to do, but that's an hour wasted. Uh, the blonde girl goes by the last name Torrance from The Shining. Yes, Jackie Torrance. Oh, you're welcome, Karen Foster. It's nice to have everybody here. So I was absolutely blown away again by this episode. I keep waiting, and this is me. I'm going to say it's me and my resentments. When I see J.J. Abrams' name on something, I'm always waiting to be a little disappointed. I don't think it's going to happen. I finally watched the little 3-minute inside the episode, and the creators were talking about the episode. And looked into kind of what they've done in the past. And like I said before, they did Masters of Sex and Lie to Me, which were two pretty solid shows. So these are good writers. These guys know what they're doing, and they have built like a really good story here. And it sucks. It's just going to end with one episode, or after one episode. That's it with this cast. And what a great cast, but that's how you get great casts. You don't commit them for multiple years and you get them for 10 episodes. And this is the kind of TV I love to cover. And this is where movies are kind of doomed because they're not going to be able to compete with stuff like this. As as event television gets more cinematic, the storytelling is just better because it's longer. You get more in depth, you get closer to characters. So yes. The other Henry said he let Henry 2 go. There you go. All that build up on Under the Dome never pay off. Such a long bill to pay. So Castle Rock is a good start, says Felipe Diaz. Yeah, I did not see Under the Dome. I did not. To be honest, I watched Lost for my first Abrams show, and I'm very hoping it doesn't turn out like the Lost ending, says Quartzwise. Yeah, we are all hoping for that. I don't think so, though. JJ's parents are good friends with Spielberg, I think. Living proof, it's not what you know, it's who you know, says Lane Bachelor. Well said. That's always been my theory on JJ Abrams is he is the golden boy. He's a very charming person. So, but yeah, he must be friends with somebody to get so much power on so little merit. And I hate to say that. He's done some good stuff, but like Noah Hawley is 10 times the writer he is. Noah Hawley should be writing Star Wars and producing and writing Star Trek. And then you wouldn't have upset fandom. You'd have very satisfied fandom. Very satisfied. And most of us, I've seen, God dang, there's been so much toxic fandom articles out there. And it's basically the press wanting to go to war with the fandom, which I don't understand because we pay everybody's bills. But yeah, most of us just want good stuff. And that's all it is. So and here we are. We're at a good television show and we're all happy. Do you hear us bitching about anything? Nope. Because it was good. Good storytelling. There's no talk of who's playing what or who's casting what. It's just a good story. And that's really all I want to do here. But sometimes you got to fight the good fight. 2 words, Dark Tower. There are other worlds than these. Yes, Wayne Worthy. That'd be cool if they mixed in some Dark Tower stuff into Castle Rock. They could do whatever they want, right? They got the King universe. Is it possible to wrap this up in one episode? They just added more questions this episode and still have so many to answer. How will they do it? Says Coral Hunt. I don't know. I don't know. But yeah, I think there's only one. I'm pretty sure it's only one more episode left. I could be wrong, but yeah, I can check. But I thought it was 10 episodes. Amongst yourselves for a moment. I'm getting verification from Google, which is spot on everything. Yep. The last episode is called Romans. It airs next week, September 12th. Actually, for me, it'll be September 11th. And that's what we will be doing our finale episode. Hope it's not a spider. Ooh, that'd be cool if it was a spider, Karen. Castle Rock should be nominated for Show of the Year, in my opinion. Courts-wise, I would nominate it. I would definitely nominate it. We've had some good shows this year, but man, Counterpart, if you haven't seen Counterpart Courts-wise, it's a lot like this. It's a lot like Castle Rock. That doesn't go for the horror element. It goes for spy sci-fi. And it deals with similar things in Castle Rock. I don't want to ruin it for you because it's amazing. It's on Showtime. It came out earlier this year. It is a brilliant show. It's available on Blu-ray here in America. It's like $26 on Amazon. Why did one Henry age and the other Henry did not? Christine Lewis, neither of them aged. One was just older than the other. So it happened differently. So it's the 27 years that was previously mentioned. So Henry, young Henry, for lack of a better, the first Henry we met, blinked out first. And then when he came back, that's when the kid blinked, but he blinked in the past. So he's with older Henry now, but he's from the past, but now he's in the future. Is everybody following this? No. So it's circular. It's circular. It's kind of like the snake eating itself. What was it? That was in 12 Monkeys too. I forgot what that was called now. The Mighty Corsair has that as a tattoo in Doctor Who as well. It sounds interesting. Yeah, Quartz-wise, Counterpart cannot recommend it high enough. Yeah, but I'm really happy with Castle Rock. JJ either knows someone or has dirt on someone. You're right, Mecca. Both equally as powerful there in Hollywood, especially these days. Wayne Worthy, excuse me. Excuse me. If you've read some of King's other works like The Talisman and The Black House, if they have similar connections to this, I believe King called them twinnies. Yeah, well, I mean, I didn't read The Black House. I read The Talisman many years ago. I actually stopped reading King after, God, in the early 90s. No reason why. I just stopped. I loved it. And he had a shared universe. He definitely had a shared universe before, in his books. There's the King verse for sure. I really want to read Dr. Sleep. I heard that's good. Is that good? The Shining sequel. The Ouroboros, thank you, is the snake eating its own tail. Thank you, Nyla's Shadow. Correct. Yes, Altered Carbon as well. That was a great show too. Good call, Mary Ashmead. So why does old Deaver have different color eyes and young Deaver doesn't? I don't know. Oh, I didn't even notice that, Luis. So one of them has like a brown and green eye or something like that? Or I don't know. I'll have to go back and look. They like David Bowie? Maybe they're both David Bowie. Yes, Gary, it was really good, says Sarah S. Okay, that's on my list then. High school, right after King. King was junior high reading back in the day. Yes, Man of Action. I'm assuming we're close to the same age. And yes, in junior high, you were not cool if you were not reading Stephen King. Period. End of story. So we're going to wrap things up here. I'm going to do a couple more chats while I get my Patreon video going here, which is somewhere. There it is. It's not up to date because we got 2 new patrons, which is awesome. You guys are brilliant for that. Self-produced show here. I know I say that every time, but gotta thank our patrons. And then we'll read some chat while that's going here. What? Karen, another King book came out today. It did? Which one? What was it? It's Tuesday. That's right. They come out with media on Tuesdays. I remember that. I used to work in retail. I used to work at bookstores and record stores and stuff. And Tuesday was a huge day. That's when I used to work the video rental counter at the warehouse. And all the little old ladies in San Marcos, down in San Marcos, California, be waiting out front the door to just rent whatever came out. And sometimes you'd give them like the raciest movies and they didn't care. They're just, it was so funny. Old Deaver has brown and blue eye. They show it on the paintings last episode. Oh, wow. Good catch. And in this one, he is when he is in the car. Okay. Luis, good catch. I did not catch that. That's why we have you guys here. That's why I need you. So the last couple things you see on the Patreon videos, the stuff you get if you sign up for the $5 and $15 level. We give you stuff. We also give you exclusive content. Check it out, patreon.com/nerdrotic channel. It helps fund, not much really. We're actually it's going to fund t-shirts. We haven't really done anything with it. But the funds we get go right back into the channel. And they're going to, and hopefully it's going to allow us to free up some time in the future so we can give you more content. That's the whole point of it. But yes, t-shirts and a calendar is what's coming up. That was requested by the patrons. It will be a tasteful calendar, but listen, I got kids in school. I got to do what I got to do, got to do what I got to do. Take a couple more chats here. Why isn't it on? I thought I had it on there. It must have accidentally got off because you were one of the first ones on, Mary. I'll put you back on. Sorry about that. Or Boris. Yes. So this is a good time to end it. So please join me for the finale at 10:15, 10:30. Unfortunate date, 9/11, Tuesday, 9/11. And we will watch the finale of Castle Rock. I'll be very sad to see it go. If you're interested in some other stuff we're doing right now, I'm covering Better Call Saul. Great show. And it's not a show we usually cover. We usually cover genre stuff, superheroes, wizards, spaceships, drug deals gone bad, and werewolves and horror stuff. But not a lot of normal drama stuff. Not our thing here. We are covering the Venture Brothers, which is a great show. We're also going to be back, and I think I'm going to cover one more Ancient Aliens because they talked about my boss last week, so I might do a late review on that one because they talked about Elon. And future shows we're covering Iron Fist, of course, coming out on Netflix. Jack Ryan, we're going to do a full review on Thursday. And what am I forgetting? Some stuff. Manifest, we're going to try out. The Good Place, and of course, The Gifted comes back. The Gifted. Other shows we're going to do in the future are, of course, When American Gods comes back. We're going to cover that. Mr. Robot, Counterpart, Game of Thrones, Westworld, all that stuff. God, it's been forever since Game of Thrones came out. Looks like April for Game of Thrones, people. And hopefully they can rally from last season. I wasn't a big fan of last season, unfortunately. So, and of course, season 2 of Castle Rock when it comes back out. So, Quartz-wise, Wayne Worthy, Luis Viega, Jody, Mary Ashmead. Oh gosh, darn it. Ouroboros played a prominent role in Hemlock Grove, which Bill Skarsgård also played in. I find that pretty funny. And I'm going to say this name slowly. Perfect. Okay. Oh, Perfect Penguin. Okay. Duh. It's just all mashed together. I'm not very smart. Thank you, A Perfect Penguin, and welcome. It's nice to see you. Man of Action, Sarah S. Nihilist Shadow, Karen Foster, welcome again. Love to see new people. You guys, this is where it's at, man. Not really, but no, it's a fun place to go. Mecha Random 42, please check out our channel. It's great. Like, share, subscribe. Coral Hunt, Tihan, am I saying that right? Is it Tech John or Tech John? Probably. I always listen. I'm from Southern California, so I automatically see like street signs and stuff in Spanish. All right, that's how I learned some of the Spanish language, by just reading the street names in San Diego, where I grew up. Now we finally know about Molly's empathy powers in a way. Good point. And I do try to read as many chats as I can, by the way. Lane Bachelor, good to see you, my friend. And of course, the lovely Mary Ashmead, Man of Action. Have I said that name? Monte Crisco, which is a funny name. Very good. Hound 3000, Sarah S. Rover, USS Rover. And I saw one. Joshua Randolph. It screwed with my head. It screwed with mine a little bit too. It's good. And if I missed anybody else, I am truly sorry. Thank you for tuning in, and we will catch you next time. May the small folks sing songs of your greatness. See you next week, Castle Rock fans.